for somebody who carries this wound of not feeling good enough, getting love bombed feels 10 out of 10. Go from 0 to 100. They are obsessed with you. You get caught up in the fairy tale, feel that energetic match of insecurity. He said, I love you in 2 weeks is a manipulative tactic. It's here's all my love. Let me give it to you. But if you're not doing what I want, I think I could be a love bomber. I could be that person. He said, it's like you were made for me. My
That's
God.
what every girl wants to hear.
Love bomb, you're my love bomb.
Love bomb,
Welcome.
love bomb. Oh, sorry.
Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of the What to Do When podcast. I'm here with co-host Kelsey, and today we are going to be talking about love bombing. What to do when you're being love bombed. Do you think you're being love bombed? Why are they love bombing? What is happening? And everyone that I've spoken to about who has been a victim of love bombing, that it's happened to them multiple times. And Kelsey and I were talking about this before. As you might know from listening to episodes with Kelsey and I are very opposite people. Kelsey is very much a sort of an avoidant attachment style, and I very much identify with more of the anxious attachment style. And I brought the topic of love bombing to the show because I was like, I want to, it's happened to me multiple times. And even recently it started to happen again, and I cut that off at the knees, which I was very proud of. But when I asked Kelsey, I said, have you ever been love bombed? And Kelsey was like, no, what's love bombing? And I think it's like number one thing I want to start. I'm pretty sure getting love bombed only happens to people with an anxious attachment style. And that is because, like you perfectly said, Kelsey, at the beginning of a relationship, if somebody is like coming in hot, which is what love bombing often looks like, what would happen for you if somebody did that?
Shut down fast. Absolutely. That's like the one thing you can do to trigger an avoidant is to come on too strong and to just be too much. Like, that's just never going to work. So maybe that's why I've never experienced it.
Yeah, absolutely. But whereas for someone like me who is more anxious in their attachment style, being love bombed feels like a fairy tale. I'm not going to lie. It's now, and I had to admit to Kelsey before, this is the third time that it's happened. I've been love bombed, and we were talking about what love bombing really is. And in my experiences, I can only speak from that, but in my experiences, it is somebody that comes on so incredibly strong, and you go from 0 to 100. They are obsessed with you. They are so into you. It's so intense. And usually there's a lot of underlying reasons as to why they're coming on so strong. And they're often not good. There's often a lot of manipulation, and there's often stuff that comes up as you get further and further into it that feel the opposite of love, And Kelsey, I want you to interview me about my love bombing experiences. Let me share these with the world.
Well, we were talking about one just before this with your ex, the one from 2 years ago. So talk me through that relationship and what happened there.
So that was my second case of love bombing, and I would have described it as a fairy tale. I literally would have described it as a fairy tale. He was besotted with me. I felt quite besotted with him. We said, I love you. I'm going to say he said, I love you in 2 weeks. And I said it back, even though I said it back, not necessarily feeling the full essence of love. And in that relationship, we were together for 6 months. That relationship, my love grew over time, and his love did not. It was at highest at the beginning.
When did you start to notice it shift?
It really was that sort of, we were stuck in that anxious avoidant pattern. But whereas in the beginning, so he was coming on so strong in the beginning, and I remember he would, like, literally on our third date, he was sitting down with me being like, I can't believe I'm feeling this way. I'm just so overwhelmed with how much I feel for you. This has never happened to me before. I'm feeling so strongly for you. And for me, I was like, oh my God, you know, for somebody who carries this wound of not feeling good enough, getting love bombed by a man feels 10 out of 10, right? It feels amazing. And that's the most annoying thing is it feels so fucking good. And you go, oh my God, you get caught up in the fairy tale and you go, holy crap, like I literally think this person is the one. They are feeling so much for me. I must match that. I must feel for them. And I remember when the first moment of manipulation actually came in, and I remember feeling really off about it, but I did it anyway. And I'll share it with you so you can get sort of an understanding. I think love bombing comes from a place of insecurity. It comes from a place of, I don't feel good enough, but I want love and I want these things and I want this and I want that. And in this start of this relationship, I'd said to the guy, like, look, like super into you, but I don't want to have sex yet. Like, I've made that mistake before. I want to wait a little while. And he was so gentlemanly, so like, of course, like no problem at all. And we'd been dating for like literally 2 weeks. Like it was probably like our fourth time that we'd hung out. It was very intense. There was, you know, a lot of big feelings there. And it felt like such a wild roller coaster ride. And I remember it got to this point where I felt him start to pull away. And I went, hey, like, what's going on? Is everything okay? And he then said to me, oh, sex is the way that I've been able to express my love with people in the past. And because we're not having sex, I just feel super weird about it. And I was like,
After 2 weeks?
Yeah, it hadn't even been that long, but I remember him having these conversations with me saying like, my feelings are overwhelming myself. I've never felt this way before. Like, you are incredible. You are so amazing. I like genuinely think we're going to be together forever.
Whoa,
and I was
that's
like,
intense.
Whoa, it was super intense. And when I look back at it, I have the ability to go, holy crap, that was way too soon and way too intense from the beginning. But at the time, I was in this place where I felt so great. There's literally no other way to describe it. Like, I felt like, oh my God, this cool, amazing guy is completely besotted with me and he's amazing. And he is giving me all of this love and affection and giving me all these words of affirmation too. We spoke about this a while ago. I've really had a breakthrough in understanding myself and why I fall so hard for certain people. And it's because they know how to speak my love languages. And my love languages are words of affirmation and physical touch. And all the people that have love bombed me have known how to do this. And I think that's where the feelings have come from, you know? And I remember going through that first couple of weeks and I knew that he was feeling a lot more than me. I knew that that was happening. And I just sort of knew that I would take a while to sort of build to those feelings, but I could see myself building to those feelings because he was so lovely. He was so great. And I felt so good, you know, if you can imagine having somebody compliment you, tell you how amazing you are and, you know, giving you cuddles and forehead kisses. And that is like a recipe for love in my head, you know, like in my wounded inner child's head, that is a recipe for love. And so as we went on, I remember we got to this point where he said that thing about sex, where he said he wasn't so good at expressing his love through words. And I think he was overwhelmed with his feelings. And I think he wanted to say, I love you, but had felt like, oh my God, we've literally been going out like not even 2 weeks. And instead, he's ended up saying, I'm used to expressing myself physically and I'm feeling really weird. And he started removing that love. He started energetically distancing himself. He got a little bit colder. He shut down a little bit when we were trying to talk about it. And guess what happened? I went into panic, right? I went into absolute panic. Like, oh my God, I just got all this love and now it's being taken away because of an action and a choice that I made. And I can change this. And so what did I do? And I, again, look back on this version of myself with respect and with love and compassion and understanding. But I said, hey, I'm ready to have sex. Let's have sex. And as you can imagine, that point was the first point where I abandoned my own needs and my own wants and desires to please him. And that was that first moment of manipulation. And that's when when we talk about love bombing, it is a manipulative tactic. It's, here's all my love, let me give it to you. But if you're not doing what I want, or it's not going the way I want, I'm going to take it away.
I have a question for you about that. What kind of attachment style do you think it takes to be a love bomber? Because it almost seems like a mix between anxious and avoidant. It's like they're anxious at the start, kind of like clingy, overbearing. And then as soon as like you start to like reciprocate, it's like, I'm out. I'm actually all good. Like I'm taking this all back.
Definitely. I think they are like someone that love bombs, in my experience. The people that have loved, that I've been in that dynamic with, have been people who have been mixed attachment styles, but really I'd say predominantly they have been more avoidant.
Mm.
And the only reason that they come in strong in the beginning is to manipulate that person into feeling a big sense of love for them. It's almost like it's an insecurity. That's what I'm saying. Like it comes from that place of, I'm not good enough. I want to feel good enough. So it's almost like trying to create a false sense of love, trying to create a false sense of intimacy and closeness. And like with these, there's two relationships in particular where it really happened to a big degree. And then there's one recent time where it was starting to happen. And again, I was like, whoa. But when it's happened, the first two times that it had happened, both times it felt wonderful. That's all I can say. It literally felt wonderful and amazing until it didn't.
Mm. Yeah, that is. I mean, I can see how that would be triggering your attachment style so much, because it's like as soon as you get this really small dose of security and it starts to be taken away, it's like, well, absolutely not. I'm not letting this go. Like, what did I do wrong? How can I change? And it would send you into this spiral. My question for you is, you said that I think a lot of these times these love bombings really took because they were playing on your love language. Have you had experiences where men tried to love bomb that didn't show your love languages in that way, and so it never really landed?
No.
Interesting. I wonder how those men get attracted in and just dump it all on you. Because I had this thought earlier, speaking about the like avoidance, is I'm guessing that with these people who are avoidant, because we can be so closed off and we don't allow ourselves to feel much at all, that when there is like a 10% change in this like feeling for someone, when someone new comes in, it could be super overwhelming and it could feel like love, because it's like, oh, I don't know any different. Like this just feels really intense because they're so closed off all the time. And then I think once they start to express it and be like, wow, maybe this is really different. And then, the veil drops and it's like, oh, actually, no, I'm still avoidant and I don't feel this way.
Yeah, it's almost like there's a layer to them at the beginning that is so open to love. It's like, again, it's like they play into that 20% of, and it actually feels, well, in my experiences, it actually felt quite secure, like it didn't feel like it was coming from an anxious or whiny or too much place. Both times that I was in relationships with these people, it actually felt like it was coming from a real, they masked as a sense of security in that love. Like they weren't questioning the feelings that they had. They were very secure in what they were feeling. And they would tell me that, and they would tell me how fantastic I was and how much they felt for me. And they would show me, I think this was also what was interesting, is they would show me that level of love. And I am someone who loves a bit of PDA. Again, what you need to know about me as a person to understand this is I want somebody to feel proud that I'm their partner. I want somebody to fucking shout my names from the rooftop and be so stoked that they're with me, because I have a deep sense of insecurity in myself. I sometimes don't feel good enough. And I've always wanted someone who is really comfortable with a bit of PDA, you know, holds your hand in public, puts an arm around you, who shows the world that they are proud to be with you. It's not actually about connection. It's about the perception that people will have of us, which is my own wound in itself. But I remember the first time it happened, this person literally, like, we started hooking up, like we hooked up a couple of times when we were drunk and stuff, and we had a good friendship as well. And then I remember it just literally overnight, it just turned from 0 to 100. And we went to a theme park. A bunch of us went to a theme park, and we'd kind of been seeing each other for a few weeks, you know, like it was a bit unclear though, like whether we were just getting drunk and hooking up or what would happen, you know, what would happen. And then we all went, a big group of us went to a theme park, and he shared my backpack. First of all, he saved a seat for me in the car. And then he held my hand. It was the first time he'd held my hand, but we were in this big group of people with our friends, the most public place you could possibly be in. And he basically launched our relationship in front of everyone, took me by the hand, arms around me, cuddling me while we were waiting in line. And it was so hot. I was like, oh my, and I remember him grabbing my hand and being like, oh, we have not held hands before. I am a little bit confused here. What is happening? And then all of our friends were like, oh, they're like in a relationship, I guess. And I was like, are we? When did we decide that? I mean, I'm stoked, but like there was no communication, no nothing. It was very much like a, let me show you how I feel for you. And from there, it just escalated and escalated. And he was such a physical person, which I had never experienced anyone who was that comfortable with PDA. And it made me feel so good. You know, it's like when I look back, I see that they picked up on something that I didn't know I had a massive insecurity around. And they like they went with it, you know, and they were able to really show me that. And I think, not necessarily think that they knew, you know, something I didn't see, but like that was just who they were. And, you know, we met at the right time for that to happen, you know. But yeah, it was both of those experiences. Kelsey, I can't even describe it. It's like when you say I fell head over heels and blah, 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 you know, and you feel so fucking amazing until you don't, until that love is taken away. And I do think it comes down to a bit of a power dynamic and a struggle. And like I said, the love bombing behavior comes from a deep place of insecurity, but also a place of pain, because they then become the person that can withdraw their love and create that pain that they actually feel on the inside about not feeling good enough or not feeling loved. They can create that really easily for you by giving and taking their love away. And it became like a thing, a dynamic that would happen where, you know, if they were happy about life and about us and, you know, I was doing what they wanted me to do, it would become, you know, they would be so, you know, lovey-dovey and so happy and so nice and like so proud to be with me. And, you know, but if something like, if I didn't hang out with them or if I didn't go out to dinner with them and I hung out with my friend instead, they would go cold. They'd withdraw their love. Public displays of affection completely removed. They would shut down. And it was almost like the first person it happened with, they were a lot older than me. And I actually think that there was a level where they did know what they were doing. There was a big age gap. And looking back, I do think they kind of knew a little bit of what they were doing, not the full extent. But then the second time it happened with someone else, I don't even think he knew that what he was doing. I really don't think he understood that he was engaging in that sort of power and control dynamic.
Yeah, so do you see love bombing as something that only happens at the beginning of the relationship? Or is it like they'll go through periods of love bombing, then periods of avoidance, and periods of love bombing, and periods of avoidance?
All my love bombing relationships have been very short-lived. The max they've gone to has been 6 months. For me, it's always been the beginning. It's been the beginning. And like literally two weeks or 3 weeks, I love you has been said.
Yeah.
And if we look back on that, like, yes, you can feel big things for someone from the beginning. Absolutely. But knowing what we know now, Kelsey, we look back on that and we go like I go, fuck that. Yeah, literally, like, I'm like, that was not love. That was infatuation. That was fucking hormones. It wasn't true love. It wasn't like love takes time to grow. They didn't even know who I was. I only showed them the nice, pretty, happy parts of me. I didn't show them who I actually was. Love takes time, in my experience. Totally. And again, it might be different for other people. That's totally your experience. But yeah, in these cases, they dropped a bomb of love, and I felt amazing for someone that struggled with feeling lovable to have that bomb of love. Damn, did it feel good? Yeah. And that's not what I should be saying about love bombing, but it's the truth. It felt fucking amazing. Whereas for you, Kelsey, who's more avoidant, if somebody came in like that with that behavior, right? Like, let's say you were like, you'd, been sort of casually like hooked up with a guy a few times, and like, you had a good friendship and like some stuff had happened, but you weren't really sure what was happening. And all of a sudden he goes from 0 to 100 and like literally holding your hand, cuddling you in front of the world. What would you do in that experience?
I would end it and I would become super avoidant and go cold and say, just friends. Like, that sounds like the worst possible way. Like, I've hated PDA in all of my past relationships. Like, I hate when people are just like too much, like text too much. Like, one of my exes just wanted to text all the time throughout the day. And I was just like, no, like, just stop talking. Like, we don't need to talk all the time. Like, it just was too much. Because when you're avoidant, you're obviously like so isolated a majority of the time, to then even think about having someone in your space is already a lot as it is. And so I think I can definitely resonate with some of the things that guys have done. Like, I know I've done that in relationships where I've probably been really keen and then been cold, because the idea of it seems really cool. But then the actual application of like having to let your walls down and having someone in your space, it's like, that doesn't feel that good for me. I do want to go back to you though, because you just had a really recent experience with love bombing, like getting back into the dating scene. So I want to know, like, have you kind of like integrated anything from the last couple of experiences that you can tell our listeners of how to like handle this love bombing? Like, what was this last relationship or experience for you like, having prior experience with love bombing?
Look, here's the thing. You're not going to know you're being love bombed unless you've been love bombed. That is a painful truth to admit. I'd say especially if you're similar to me in terms of that, you lean more towards the anxious attachment style. You crave somebody to like be all over you and like to be really into you. And obviously that could go wrong. Like, they have to be a person that you're attracted to. They have to be someone that, you want to be with. It could go very much the wrong way if they weren't, because I've definitely had people who I wasn't interested in be very forward, and that, you shut that down. But when they are someone that you do like and you could see a relationship with, and you see their really good qualities and, all these amazing things, they've got their shit together, they've got their life together, they want what you want, they want something serious, and that's the bottom line though, is you're not going to know you're being love bombed unless it's happened to you before. And again, it sucks that that's the truth, but I'm kind of stoked that I was able to recognize in a dating experience recently, I was able to recognize that this was happening with this person, or it was starting to happen. We literally only went on a couple of dates, but there were so many similarities. Like, again, the thing you spoke about, talking all the time. I was literally like this person, talking to them nonstop throughout the day. They would reply 1 second, they would reply with a big voice note. We were calling each other on car rides. We were, and we'd only been like literally gone on a couple of dates. And I remember this was the thing that just killed me the most. So we went on our first date, and we made out at the end of the day, and like he gave me his jumper and it was so cute. And then we were walking back to the car and we just held hands. And I don't remember who initiated that, but we just did. And I remember he looked at me and he was like, we're holding hands. And I was like, oh yeah, we are. And he's like, wow, I never hold hands on the first date with someone. Like, this just feels so comfortable. Like, I really like this. This feels so great. You're amazing. And of course I go, wow, oh my God, this feels so amazing. This must be meant to be. And I literally remember walking away from that date being like, I think I got a boyfriend.
You did. You sent me a voice note after that.
Literally.
Like, I've got a boyfriend. I remember that clearly.
Yes, because I was like, whoa, like it was
and
like
it's interesting you said that about your last sex as well. Like of a month or two and you're like, I think this is the guy I'm going to marry.
Yeah, 100%. And it was like, it was just really interesting. And I've got to own my part in it, because when I get that level of, when somebody says like, I choose you and like, you're amazing and it's going so well, it brings out this part of me that just kind of goes, wow, oh my God, yes, exactly. Because like, it brings out that I am the one. We do have something special. It brings out this part of me that is really desperate and yearns for love, which we all have, you know.
I can 100% relate to that.
Yeah.
Pick me, choose me.
Pick me. Oh my God, yeah. Pick me, choose me, love me energy. And that part of me, when that gets triggered and steps into the driver's seat, is a really dangerous part of me to be driving my love life, if we're honest. And in the journey of healing and growth, I've gotten the ability to be able to recognize that part of myself more and more and more, to know what it feels like when I'm not actually being discerning. I'm not actually looking at this person as a whole. I fall into the infatuation with them, you know. I fall into projecting the future. You know, we could get married, we could have kids, we could have a family. You know, I think if I was more secure in myself from a younger age, I think I could be a love bomber. I could be that person.
Role reversal.
Yeah, role reversal, but
become the love bomber.
Become the love bomber. But I haven't had that sense of security and like confidence in myself and in relationships. I haven't had that from a young age. So I think that's probably why I can't start the behavior, but I can absolutely go along for the ride. You know, and it's almost like I was saying to you before, it's almost like I go into a bit of a trauma response and I just become like, like, take me, go with me, let's go. This is great, because it feels so good to be loved. It feels so good when you are someone that struggles with relationships, I haven't seen, like, I grew up with a single parent. I have never seen I haven't had an example of a loving relationship from early on. The only examples I have in my head are fairy tales. They are things from movies. The one that I'm literally in my head right now thinking about is a Cinderella story with Hilary Duff and what's his name?
In the Rain.
Oh, honestly.
My God.
Guess what? Okay, this will make you laugh. With the first person I got love bombed with, we did that. We had the kissing scene in the rain. He took me down to this waterfall. It started raining. And this was like, again, like a couple of weeks into seeing each other. And guess what he said to me? He said, "It's like you were made for me." Oh, isn't that like, oh my God.
That's what every girl wants to hear. Like, that's what anyone wants to hear. You want to hear that you're special. You want to hear that something sets you apart from everyone else, because that's like what a core wound is for all of us, is we all feel like we're not good enough to some degree. So to have anyone single you out and be like, no, you're different than anyone else, like, you're the one, you're the best one. Anyone
and I've
is
never
going to get
felt
triggered
this way
by that.
before. Like, I've never felt this way before. Yeah,
it is.
And
I totally
think that's where the manipulation comes in, because they do. And again, it's hard because they're not consciously doing it. They don't know what they're doing, but they are doing it. They're preying on it's like they feel, oh my God, they're as insecure as I am, but we deal with it very differently. So it's like they feel that energetic match of insecurity in each other. And then they go, we can get stuck in one of these terrible dynamics of power and control where I can give them all this love and make them feel so good. Then when I'm feeling shit about myself, I can take it away and I can feel better. And then I can give it to them when they do what I, when they're giving me the love that I want and when I feel powerful, and then I can take it away, It
is a power thing with avoidance. It's 100% a power thing. And it is, I think I hit the nail on the head earlier. It's like you like the idea of it so much more in your head than actually having to let someone into your life. And so it's like so easy for them to say this stuff and be like, it does feel different, all this stuff. But then when they actually have to open up, it's like impossible. Absolutely not happening.
Totally. That's it. And like, here is the recipe for how I stopped the love bombing in its tracks. Third time lucky. Fool me once. What do they say? Fool me once. Shame on you. Fool me twice. Shame on me.
Shame on me.
Fool me 3 times. It can't
Don't let it happen again.
Don't let it happen. No. So third time encountering the energy of love bombing. And again, fairy tale of a first date, super vulnerable very quickly, very comfortable around each other, very open, very physically, like arm around me, holding my hand, had a little kiss, gave me the jumper, holding hands. Oh my God, I've never done this so quick before. This feels so natural, making me feel special, But here is the first thing that really helped. And I think this is really funny. What actually really helped was the fact that I was dating other people at the same time. So this was my first date with this guy, and I was dating some other people as well. And we had a kiss, me and this potential love bomber. And I remember, I'm pretty sure I called you afterwards and I said, the only thing, the kiss wasn't as good as the kiss that I've had with someone else. And I am genuinely grateful for that, because it gave me the ability to step out of the sort of like rush of everything's aligning, everything's working out, everything is magical. And it made me kind of go, oh, there is something wrong. There's something off.
Yep.
The kiss wasn't that great, And I actually remember having this conversation with myself in the car on my way home, kind of being like, I can get over that. They're so lovely.
Sexual compatibility is not that important.
Yeah, they clearly are super into me. This was just nice. I can get over that. They've got all the qualities. Like, they were like really outgoing. They had their life together. They were really friendly, like really like they were like a leader in their life, and I really admired a lot of the stuff that they were bringing to the table. And I was kind of like, I can get over that. It'll be fine, And this is the funny part. And this is love bomb energy 101. Okay. This is love bomb energy 101. Second date, get out the car, go and see him, give him a hug. And he pecks me on the lips like we've been together for 2 years. And I remember just being like, oh, I guess I do have a boyfriend. Okay. Grabs my hand, off we go. And I was like, what?
Changes Facebook status to in a relationship.
Literally. Honest to freaking God. And this sounds weird, but it's like the only reason I was able to dodge the love bomber was because I was also seeing some other people at the same time. And that was actually I had options, and I was able to see, like, again, I think a love bomber, to be successfully love bombed, you need a bit of scarcity. And when I look at the other scenarios where I did end up in a relationship with them, they were the only person around, and they were the only person that I had I had feelings for,
Well, it does prey on the anxious attachment style of not feeling secure, as if there's no other options. You're like, well, maybe there won't be any other, so I better take this one. But when you were like playing the field, it was like, oh, well, there's a few others. Like, I'm all good.
It was like, thank God I'm playing the field, because then when he started doing these fucking, like,
he switched,
I was about to say psycho, but it wasn't. But he turned real fast. Yeah. Like, again, someone that communicated with me literally nonstop, like non-fucking stop, instant replies. And then something had happened. I'd changed something on my Hinge profile the day that we matched on Hinge. So it must have happened like after we had matched, but I went to a potluck and my friends had added one of those friends' voice notes about why you should date me. They added something to my Hinge profile. Literally the day that I matched with him. And again, I hadn't gone on any other dates with anyone. I had been seeing a few other people before, like they were kind of open, but I was like very much like, oh, I think this guy could be someone, you know? I was very like, oh yeah, I really like this. I want to pursue this. But I changed something on my Hinge profile the day that we matched, and he obviously hadn't seen that I'd changed it. And he sent me this message being like, oh, nice update to your Hinge profile. And I was like, oh, like, what do you mean? And he was like, oh, you know, you're allowed to be honest with people about your dating vibes. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean? Like, I was literally like, what are you talking about? So
ambiguous.
Yeah. And just so like, I was like, what are you on about? And then he just replied with like a face palm emoji. And I was kind of like, oh, stuff this. Like I was going out to dinner with some friends. It was late at night. I was like, I'm just going to leave this. I'll reply tomorrow. 6 a.m. next morning, I get a message from him being like, hey, got the vibe, like thought I'd reach out. I got the vibe yesterday that you wanted to date around. That's not what I want. I want something more wholesome and more serious. Like I told you, like wish you all the best kind of thing. And I was like, what the fuck? Like what just happened here? And I ended up talking, being like, you know, what's going on? Like, I do want something serious. I really liked you. Like, here's the timeline of when I updated my Hinge profile. And
the
again,
fact that you even have to explain that is just
ridiculous. And get this. And then he says, you have to admit it looks a bit dodgy when someone updates their Hinge profile that you've been seeing for a few days. A few days, guys. A few days.
You hear yourself.
Dude, I was literally like, are you reading your own message? Like, what are you doing? And because I did have options, because I knew I wasn't necessarily like, oh my God, there's hundreds of people out there for me, but I had been on some first dates with some other people, and there were like, I knew that there was a whole dating pool of people out there. I wasn't feeling that sense of scarcity. And I was able to look at this behavior and go like, what are you doing? Like, what has happened here? We've literally been on like 2 dates. It's barely like, what's going on here? I don't understand this. It gave me the ability to have that perspective, and it was such a turn off, you know?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong though. I have to acknowledge this. This is my red flag. There was absolutely a part of me that kind of frothed and loved his like jealousy fire side, you know? And again, this comes from a wounded part of me because it makes me feel special and that they have big feelings for me. But there's moments in time, it's a power thing too. There's moments in time in my life where I would have listened to that part of me. Whereas because of the work that I've done, and thankfully the fucking friends that I have, I remember you being like, what the fuck, Kathleen? Like, come on.
Kick this guy to the curb.
Yeah, kick this guy to the curb. Because of that work and because of the fact that I wasn't in scarcity, I knew like I was actually getting a bit of the ick from the behavior. I was like, oh, this isn't very nice, you know? And it gave me the ability to be discerning and to actually see what it was rather than fall into that power dynamic and display. And I'm super stoked at that. And I think that takes a lot. And even reflecting on it now, I do really, and it sounds terrible, like, yes, I've done a lot of healing, a lot of growth, but I actually do think the key was knowing that I had other options, knowing that he wasn't the only person. And that's why I do think when you are dating, like when you are starting to date people and open yourself up to dating, it is a good, especially if you're someone who's more anxious and tends to fantasize and romanticize and, you know, you go on a first date and you're planning your whole life together like I do, it is a good idea to be dating a few people at the same time, to give yourself that ability to be discerning, to know that there's options, to not trigger that part of you that's like, oh my God, they're the only ones, I have to make it work, you know?
Totally. And I think as well, like you said, having that support system, because at the beginning stages of dating, if the person is doing something that you're like a bit embarrassed to tell your friends about, usually a red flag. If there is some shame or embarrassment coming up, like, do I even speak to someone?
Has that happened to you? What's something that you've been embarrassed
about? So many things with my exes. And it was like, if I had just spoken to someone, said it out loud to someone, they'd have been like, that's a pretty toxic behavior, or it's pretty clear that like you don't actually like this person. But I just kept it all in because I was avoidant. And in retrospect, I was like, wow, if I had just leaned on someone, knowing the way I speak about them would have been really clear. I don't actually really like this person, or this behavior like isn't really that great.
Oh my God, can I admit two things that I'm just now going and like recognizing?
Yes, please.
So from that first love bombing experience when I was 21, I haven't told many people this. He used to steal me things. I know. He would like steal me, like he stole me like a watch. He would steal me like candy and stuff, you know.
Thanks so much.
I remember, I'm sorry, I'm just now getting like secondhand cringe and embarrassment for myself. And then the second time it happened when I was like 25, he called me ma'am, and he had he was a bit of a country boy. He called me ma'am all the time and had a hanky, you know, like a piece of material that, what did he call it? A do-rag.
Yeah.
A do. And I remember our second day.
One around. Your dad's like 84.
Yes. And he had this, and I literally remember being like, okay, I'm literally going to ignore that, like put my hands on my eyes and pretend I have not seen this and just be like, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Look at everything else. Oh my God, that's so funny, isn't it? That is absolutely hilarious. And that's what we do, right? We overlook the behaviors or the traits that we would normally get the ick from, that we would normally actually be like, I don't really enjoy this. Like, I don't want a fucking person who steals me things. Like, come on. You know, I don't really want to marry a person who carries a do-rag, dirty handkerchief in their pocket. Or who calls me ma'am. Like, what is that about?
Yeah, the ma'am thing? Absolutely not.
You know, and like, I think it is that ability to be discerning. So you're so right. Like, if you are someone who has been a victim of love bombing, here is your checklist, okay? It is make sure that you're dating a couple of people when you're first getting into a relationship with someone. Don't fall into that scarcity of they're the only one. Make sure that you do know that you've got options. 2, tell your friends fucking everything. Have discussions. And there is this amazing, who was that? I think it's Jillian on Love. I can't remember, but from this book, it's called The First Date 8. And it's 8 questions that you ask yourself after a first date. And it's so helpful for people who have that more anxious attachment style and who tend to just forward and future project into the future of like, oh my God, we could have babies. Our life could be so great together. It gets you to engage in being more present, more discerning, and more aware. And those questions are amazing. The First Date 8, I will try and link them in the show notes as well. But do the First Date 8 with a friend or a family member. Do it with someone, or your therapist or your coach. Like, do that with someone so you can hear how you're actually speaking about them. Get the support system to help you through that. And do you know what I think I have learned now? And you can hold me accountable to this for my next dating, because I feel almost ready to date again. Not quite, but I'm almost ready to put my foot out again. But Kelsey, I want to make the pledge that I will listen to you. I will listen to your advice. I will listen to your truth. I will listen to your observations. I won't ignore them and pretend that I don't hear you. Pinky promise through the camera, okay?
Pinky promise.
True. Yeah, that's a pinky promise. Everyone on the podcast just heard that.
I want to touch on what Kathleen said with that. When you are leaning on friends when you're dating, please only lean on friends who have your best interest at heart. Like, this is something that is actually really, really important for any aspect, any advice. Like, don't take advice from people who are not where you want to be. Don't take advice from people you don't look up to. Don't take advice from people you don't trust. If you're going to ask anyone for advice, make it someone who is a close friend who only wants what's best for you, or somewhere that you want to work to get towards and you would really value their opinion. Because taking advice from people who aren't aligned with what you want, aren't aligned with where you want to be, they're going to bring you down, especially if that person, like, say I was in a really low vibration place, I was sleeping around, like had really low self-worth, and Kathleen comes to me from guy advice. I'm going to tell her exactly what I want her to do so I feel better about my actions. So I would likely tell her, oh, you should sleep around. Oh, you should just hook up with whoever. It doesn't matter, sell your soul on the black market. just so that I feel a little bit better about my shame and my low self-worth. So that is a really important thing.
Totally. And you wouldn't necessarily know that's what you're doing.
No,
right?
I would have no idea.
Yeah.
I would have no idea.
Yeah, because you would, like, I've definitely been in situations where I've been that friend. I've been in a low place and someone's been coming to me for advice that I have not been qualified to give whatsoever.
Same,
and
100%.
I have been projecting my own shit. There's a very big difference. I think that's why I am so grateful and love my friendships that I have at the moment. Most of my friends are actually in really amazing relationships. And whilst that's hard and I feel like the last single gal on the block, it's also really cool because I feel like I have these people who are where I want to be and have done the hard work to get there. And I feel really blessed with those people that I have for advice. And they're the only people that I go to advice for. And there's a very different energy when you can tell somebody is projecting what they would do in your situation versus what they think is actually best for you. And I guess this is also good because it's very natural, right? Friends, we love to dish the goss. We love to like put our 2 cents in. And it's also good advice for you to be a better friend is to actually listen and to get clear on when it's triggering something in you and you're projecting what you would do in that situation rather than what they should be doing in that situation, you know? And what I love having friends who are coaches like you, Kelsey, because we're so trained to not project our own drama into it and to instead ask questions and to help the person get to their own conclusion through those questions. And I think that is such a gift, right? Like you want to go to advice. That's why that first date 8 is really cool because it's a series of 8 questions you could get your friend to ask you, you know, and just reflect and discuss and, you know, be like, what do you, you know, to your friend, what are you hearing me say in this, you know, tapping into those different levels of listening, or go to therapy. Great advice. Go get some support, from qualified people. But that's us. Let's wrap up the lovely love bombing episode. I hope that if you're being love bombed currently, you've got some support and some advice. I'd love to hear from you, your love bombing experiences. Please DM me at Kathleen.mindsetcoach so we can share them on the pod because, so many people are victims of love bombing and it's just, we got to stop it, right? You can't, the fool me 3 times can't happen anymore. And dating updates to come. We need to make this a segment on the show, Kathleen's dating updates, of when I'm actually going to be held accountable to you. Maybe we should do an episode where we do the first date 8 on the pod with you and me. That could be cool.
Yeah, that would be good.
I love
that. Yeah, and send through any questions or comments you guys have. Like, we'd love to just have episodes dedicated to what you guys want to hear about.
Absolutely. We love you guys. And just remember that you are doing enough. You are being enough. You are worthy and deserving of love. And you are worthy and deserving of good things in this life. We love you. We'll see you next time.
See you.